What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Adventure Outpost. It is officially December, and you know what that means. We have another month of a slew of movies that is time for us to talk about that we are going to be so excited to see for this month. It is officially starting into the holiday season, so we're getting a lot of that good stuff, and we are going to talk all about my most anticipated movies for the month of December. But quickly before we do that, as always, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop some comments down below. I want to know what you're most excited for in the month of December. We have a slew of movies coming out. There is a lot of big epic hits, as long as a lot of small little indie movies coming out that is getting a lot of buzz going into award season. This is the time when we are really getting the best of both worlds. You get your big holiday hits, and we get our small indie dramas that end up getting some of that awards buzz going into the Oscar season. And we are going to discuss all of those movies up next. A quick caveat, I've been trying mostly whenever I do these videos to do a most anticipated for literally everything that is coming out for the month. It's gotten very hard to do that, considering a lot of the times when you get your streaming movies, they're not very advertised like months in advance. Like, you'll find out a week or two before they're due to come out that suddenly there's a trailer and now they're like, oh hey, it's dropping here. So we don't really get I don't really get to know a lot of these streaming movies that are coming out in advance when I do these videos. It's really only a few of them. So I've decided that unless it's a big enough movie that's been announced in advance that's coming out, I'm not going to be ranking up my most anticipated for a lot of the streaming movies anymore, because it's just too hard to keep track of them. You're really only going off of a title alone because there's no trailer. There's not even a poster to go off of. You're literally just getting a 1 or 2 sentence log line, and you're just supposed to go off of that. So unless there is a big movie that's been announced enough in advance that it has a poster, it has a trailer, it has more than just a log line, I'm going to keep those off. So there's going to be a few movies that are coming out in December on Netflix and Hulu and all those ones that aren't going to be dropped in here, simply because, one, there's probably a bunch of them that we don't even fucking know about yet, and two, the few that are on there have the barest of descriptions that I don't really have a lot to go on anymore, and then they end up not even being part of the list at the end of the month because I either didn't get a chance to see them, or they just, by the time they creeped up, I just didn't care anymore. So we're going to stick mostly with our theatrical releases and the 1 or 2 movies that are streaming-wise that have been announced enough in advance that I know enough about them to have an opinion about them. So we're officially going to kick it off with one of the movies that actually is coming out on streaming that I know just enough about to make it be here. And of course, it's here all the way at the bottom of the list because there's still not even a trailer for it. I'm going off of a poster and a logline, and the only reason I'm talking about it is because it is part of a film franchise. And that is, we are getting the 4th adventure in the Night at the Museum story. This is Night at the Museum. Kamun-Ra rises again, I think it's called, dealing with the villain from the second Night at the Museum movie. This one is an animated tale following the adventures of the main character from the first movie, Ben Stiller. We're following his son now, and it's an animated adventure about him taking over guard duty now at the Natural History Museum. No trailer or anything to go on. I'm going simply off of that. It drops all the way here at the bottom of the list, mostly because I don't think anyone on the planet really needed another Night at the Museum movie. Like, that movie, the first movie, was a genuine hit. It was so much fun. I remember going to see that movie in theaters when it came out and dying throughout it. It was just such a clever and fun movie. And then they spent the next 2 movies ruining all that goodwill and just having such diminishing returns as we went through that at this point, there's literally nothing left in the tank, I feel like, and it's a Disney Plus, so it really just reeks of Disney Plus just making it to be like, hey, we have the Night at the Museum franchise, why don't we dust that off and make a movie of that and put it on Disney Plus, and it's content. So it's a movie that just reeks of content for content's sake, so it falls all the way here at the bottom of the barrel. Up next is the movie Women Talking. It is the story. I really am just going off of the trailer, and the trailer doesn't really give a lot to go on. It's just a lot of scenes of women that I believe are Mennonites, I want to say, is what it seems like. It seems like they're very much part of that culture. And it seems like a lot of shit has gone on in their grouping there, that they are like discussing all of this stuff and about what to go on. It seems like it's going to be like a very heavy topic, but the trailer doesn't really give a lot in there as way of plot. It's mostly just a bunch of scenes of of rising tension of what seems like's going on in this small little group. So it doesn't give enough for me to like be that interested in it, other than like it does the classic indie where it doesn't give you a lot of plot information. It just tells you all the film festivals that it did really well at. Like it just popped up and it was like Telluride Festival, Film Festival Selection, this. It's like, all right, cool, but give me some fucking plot. Like what the fuck is the plot of this movie? It's just like a bunch of women talking, and then it literally the title comes up where it says women talking, and I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. I don't mean to say that necessarily means the movie's gonna be bad or anything. I just don't think it was a well put together trailer. So that's why it falls more down here towards the bottom of the barrel. I do obviously want to check it out because it does have a lot of very great actresses in it. So I think obviously this movie is going to end up being very well acted at the very least. So I do want to check it out. And also I'm interested enough to want to know what this actual fucking plot is of this movie. So I am going to check it out, but it drops all the way down here at the bottom just because it doesn't give me enough to go on to be super excited for it. Up next is the musical biopic I Want to Dance with Somebody, the story of Whitney Houston's life, written by the people that wrote Bohemian Rhapsody. I fucking hate Bohemian Rhapsody. So I don't have high hopes for this movie. I have a little bit better high hopes for it just because I think it'll be more interesting to see Whitney Houston's story, I want to say, but the trailer doesn't give me high hopes. Before I even knew it was written by the people from Bohemian Rhapsody, the trailer, when I saw it, I was like, this is giving me Bohemian Rhapsody vibes. And then I found out that it was written by them, and it was like, a fucking course it is. And I know what a lot of people will say is like, what do you mean you don't like it? So many people like Bohemian Rhapsody. As I've come across people throughout my time since that movie has come out, I am definitely in the minority of people that dislike that movie. And the reason that I think that is because I wanted an actual movie that was going to dive into the actual struggle of Freddie Mercury's life, when Bohemian Rhapsody feels like a movie where I would understand why the majority of the population likes it, because it's like fast food. It's like soda. It just goes down easy. It's easily digestible. Like there's nothing like simmering underneath for them. It's like we're just giving you surface level stuff. And that's what Bohemian Rhapsody was. It just felt like the barest of plots, and then it was just like, hey, remember when we wrote this song? That was cool. Remember when we wrote this song? That was cool. And they just barely touch on enough of Freddie Mercury's personal life so that they could gloss over it. Like it's such a small portion of that movie. Like the movie, and then it just ends with a 20-minute recreation of Live Aid, and it's like, who the fuck cares? Like it just felt like such a watered down studio, like safe film. And I'm worried that they're going to do the exact same thing now with Whitney Houston, where they're just going to gloss over the troubling aspects of this woman's life and try to paint a picture that is not true to the person that lived this life. And it just feels disingenuous to me. And that's why, I mean, I'm still hoping that won't be the case and that this movie will end up surprising me, but it's down here more towards the bottom of these movies that I'm anticipated for, simply for that reason. Up next is a sequel to an animated film that nobody really asked for, the original, and now we're suddenly getting one like however decades later, and that's Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I don't know anybody who really asked for this movie. It looks more interesting than the first one. I'll give it that. I fell asleep during the first one when I saw it in theaters. Was not the biggest fan of it, but I will say that this trailer makes me a little bit more interested. I think the animation style for this one is much more lively and energetic, and just looks like a lot more fun than the original. So that's really bringing me in right now. And I think the story looks like a lot more fun too, where he's like on his last of his 9 lives, and he's gonna try and have to make that last life count. I'm sure it's going to be a cute little fun movie. And, you know, it's got Florence Pugh in it. Fucking love me some Florence Pugh. So you got my ass in the seat. So it manages to eke past all these other smaller movies based off of those 2 facts. I think this movie probably will be the safest bet of movies that you'll go and enjoy this holiday season. I'm sure it's going to do gangbusters at the theaters. But it just doesn't. It can't go any higher simply because of the other movies that are left to come out for this month. Up next is the Brendan Fraser return, baby. He's back, finally, in a Darren Aronofsky film, The Whale. I don't know much about this story either. I think it's pretty much it follows him as he's trying to reconnect with his daughter, I believe. And why this ends up reaching a lot higher than, let's say, like Women Talking, where I didn't know a lot about that plot either, is simply because I am such a huge Brendan Fraser fan. The Mummy is one of my favorite movies of all time. I've always loved everything that he did. I thought he was such a fun and energetic and lively and just great presence on the screen. And it was always so sad that he never got to reach that full potential of where he should have in his career. And I am just happy to see that he is back on screen. It looks like he's coming back and doing like just an absolute powerhouse performance. So this movie is reaching this high simply because I can't wait to see just this amazing performance that he's going to put forward that's going to just race him towards hopefully award season and finally give him that validation that he should have gotten so many years ago. Sam Mendes is back with his next movie, Empire of Light, that hits next. This is a movie about a woman who works at a movie theater it looks like it's going to be around the civil rights era because she strikes up a romance with a African American, I don't know, I guess British African. I don't know I know here we call them African Americans since they're, from America, but what if they're in British, are they just British Africans? I don't know. What's the terminology? Doesn't matter. That's a weird thing to be talking about anyway. But she strikes up a relationship with this man and people are not fucking happy about it. And she works in a movie theater and we follow what looks like a cast of characters around this time where they're dealing with this whole situation that's unfolding. It looks like another absolute powerhouse performance from Olivia Colman, who is just banging out performance after performance after performance. It'll be interesting if this one careens her towards another coveted Oscar. But it looks like a very good movie. Sam Mendes, always a safe bet. That man makes some fantastic movies. So I'm super excited to have him back with another hit. Up next is the next streaming movie that we have to talk about, and that is Apple TV's movie Emancipation, directed by Antoine Fuqua and starring Will Smith, his first foray back into film after his exciting adventures at the Oscars last year. Putting all that aside, as wild as all that shit is, I don't really give a shit when it comes to movies. Yeah, he did a stupid thing, but I don't think that means that he just shouldn't be in movies anymore. Like, grow up and get over yourselves. This movie still looks very, very good, and I think it's going to be an absolutely stellar Will Smith performance in this one. It follows him as a former slave who, with photographs of his back and all the whippings that he takes, helps lead to the abolitionist movement during this time. I think it's going to be a very intense and just gut-wrenching and gripping movie. The trailer was just something out of this world. I love Antoine Fuqua. I still will always be a diehard Will Smith fan, and I think this is going to be an amazing teaming of the two of them, that they're going to create something very, very well here. Up next is a movie that I actually just came back from the theater and saw. And I think this here in the number 3rd spot for the month, I think is a safe place to put this movie. I put it here before I even saw it. So don't think I just saw it now I'm like, I'm going to place it here because I think this is going to be a good spot for it. I placed it here. I saw it. I think this is a good spot for it because I don't see... it was just so much fun. And that is the Christmas movie Violent Night, starring David Harbour, following Santa Claus as he must save a family from a group of, I guess, terrorists. But they're not like specifically oriented with any like country or anything. They're just money grubbing guys. But they're still committing terrorism against people. So I guess we'll just go with terrorists. But it follows him as he must save a family and stop these people from ruining Christmas. It is a wild movie. It is an absolute fun throwback to 90s action movies that were just big, dumb fun. It's a movie that's sorely missing from the theatrical experience these days, where you just go, you're transported to another world, you're just having a blast of a time, you're just not even thinking about your phone or anything, you're just in the moment, and it's just a fun movie. It's well worth your time, it's well worth your money, and it helps you just escape from the real world for a good 2 hours, and isn't that what movies are all about? Taking the number 2 seed, though, is the first of the huge epics that are coming out this holiday season, and that is Damien Chazelle's new movie, Babylon, starring Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie, about the 1920s Hollywood as they transported into talkies from silent films and all of the debauchery that was going on during that time. It looks like a wild movie. I can't believe we actually just learned the runtime of this movie, and it is only 1 minute shorter than another movie we're going to see in a few minutes here. And it's 3 hours and 9 minutes. So this movie is going to be something. It's going to be a wild and crazy ride. I think this movie, it's whenever I see from the trailer, it just to me looks like, oh, this is just Wolf of Wall Street, but in 1920s Hollywood, which isn't a bad thing to me. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, to me, that's like, fuck yeah, baby. Like 1920s Hollywood, but it's Wolf of Wall Street. Like, sign me the fuck up. And what? Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie are in it? Fucking double bang, baby. Let's go. Like, it looks like it's going to be a very fun movie. And anyone has a great track record right now, or you should still be optimistic about this movie, it is the direction of Damien Chazelle. The man is 3 for 3. He doesn't make bad movies so far. Whiplash, one of the best movies of all time. La La Land, one of the best movies of all time. First Man is probably the weakest of, not probably, it absolutely is the weakest of his movies so far, but it's still a rock solid movie. And it's just, I loved every second of it still. Like, even though it's not going to reach the heights of Whiplash and La La Land, not every movie has to, but just making a rock solid picture is sometimes good enough. And so this man right now is 3 for 3. So I fully am on board and trust this man that if his movie needs to be 3 hours and 9 minutes, then goddamn it, it's going to be 3 hours and 9 minutes, and it's going to be fucking worth it. So Damien, I trust you. I can't wait for this movie. It looks like it's going to be a hell of a ride. But there can only be one, and it shouldn't surprise anybody unless you've been living under a fucking rock and don't know what's happening. But Avatar is returning to theaters, finally. The long-awaited sequel to the absolute global phenomenon Avatar: The Way of Water is finally coming back to our screens. It has to be number 1 here, my most anticipated movie of all time. It's not even that I am like the die-hard Avatar fan of the first movie. I think I do love the first movie. I think it is a fun, enjoyable, epic sci-fi experience. Obviously, it is very derivative in spots, but that's not a bad thing. Every movie that you watch, there is no originality in movies anymore. Any person that wants to complain and say that Avatar is a bad movie because it's derivative or unoriginal or its characters are unoriginal, then you don't ever get to champion how good you think an MCU movie is ever again. Because you've watched the same 38 movies in a row at this point, but then you're just like, oh, one Avatar, that's so unoriginal. Everything you watch is unoriginal these days. There are no original stories anymore. But I think Avatar: The Way of Water is going to be another global smash phenomenon. You never discount James Cameron. That man is an absolute genius behind the camera. He's made 2 movies in the last 30 years, both of which became the highest grossing movies of their time when they were released. So I would not bet against this man to pull off a hat trick and once again have that crowning achievement. It has been a long time, and a lot of people like to say and point fingers and say there's just no interest in it anymore, that the people don't care. But I don't think that's the case. Every time I go to Disney, Avatar Pandora area is absolutely flooded with people, and it's been doing that since 2017. So you've got a whole generation of people that have grown up going to Disney since that time, that have consistently gone to that area and have never gotten to see an Avatar movie in theaters. So you bet your ass all those people are going to be coming to this movie and wanting to check it out and finally getting to see the experience on the big screen. You have all of the people that saw Avatar when it first came out, like me and everybody else, that are going to go see it again. You have all the people that grew up at home with this movie that are going to want to finally go out and check and see. I think this movie is going to be another smash hit. You have all the people that love to complain online about nobody cares about this second one, but they're going to go see it. They might complain, but they're going to go see it. Whether they go see it to hate on it or not, they're going to go see it. This movie is going to be another cultural smash. I'm calling it now. It's going to happen. James Cameron is just, he knows what he knows how to bring the theatrical experience, how to bring it alive and how to make it worth seeing. He does stuff on screen that no other person is really able to pull off. Like, he is so unique, and his visions that he brings to stuff are so unique. It's going to be fucking something that's going to be absolutely special to see on screen, and I, for one, cannot wait. I will be one of the first in line, and it's going to be a wild time at the theaters, all 3 hours and 12 minutes of it. And that is my list. We have a lot of good stuff coming out for the month of December. It is going to be a very interesting ride for these last few weeks as we put a close on 2022 and enter into our 2023 movie season. And I will be here along to chart with it all. I hope you will join me through these next few weeks, and I'll see you at the end of the month when we rank up and see how these movies did, as opposed to how I expect them to be for me. But that'll do it for all of us here at the Outpost today. You have been you, I have been me. These are the movies we love so much. And until next time, adventure on.